We often associate travel with exotic locations and leisure, but in July of 1996, when Blair Adams left his home country of Canada to journey across the United States, he wasn't taking a vacation. He was on the run.
Knoxville, Tennessee would be the last stop on his haphazard path, where he met a tragic end that, to this day, remains unsolved.
Today on Dark Matters, the death of Blair Adams.
"31-year-old Robert Dennis Blair Adams was known simply as Blair to his friends. Though he'd struggled with drugs and alcohol in the past, he'd, quote, turned his life around and become the man most knew him as: kind, fiercely loving, with an upbeat attitude. A hard worker, Blair was a single, unmarried man who spent most of his time working for a Canada and German-based construction company, a job that he both enjoyed and was good at.
However, in July of 1996, Blair's positive attitude dampened. He suffered from mood swings and confessed to a friend that he was stressed out and depressed.
His mother, Sandra Edwards, saw he was going through a bout of insomnia and asked him on several occasions if something was wrong. He answered with, "I don't think I should tell you about it," but didn't elaborate any further.
Not long after, he said he planned to quit his job, offering no explanation, but the odd behavior only got worse.
Blair Adams' stress seemingly culminated into paranoia on Friday, July 5th, 1996.
He attempted to leave the country several times, taking all of his money with him.
He withdrew his entire savings and all of the items in his safety deposit box, including $6,000 in cash and valuable gold items like coins and jewelry. After packing the gold into a black fanny pack, he packed a green duffel bag with American, Canadian, and German money and a black bag with documents and receipts. Sunday, July 7th. Blair attempted to board a ferry bound for America, but immediately border officials were suspicious.
He was a single man carrying a large amount of cash with him, a common profile for a drug courier, so he wasn't allowed to cross the border. Blair returned on foot for a desperate second attempt to leave the country, but was again stopped by authorities.
Monday, July 8th. Blair showed up to work, but instead of starting the day's work, he quit, took his last check, and left without further explanation.
Later that day, he spent $1,600 on a round-trip flight to Frankfurt, Germany, set to leave the next day. But that wasn't soon enough, it seems.
That night, Blair begged a friend to help him across the U.S. border, claiming that someone was trying to kill him. His friend, however, couldn't leave her children alone and couldn't help. Tuesday, July 9th. Blair checked in for his flight to Germany, but instead of boarding the plane, bought a one-way ticket to Washington, D.C., which later struck investigator Lieutenant Jones as odd. He said to Unsolved Mysteries, quote, "He paid about $770 for a one-way ticket when he could have purchased a round-trip ticket for approximately $350 or $400. So it would have been half the price for a round-trip ticket as he paid for a one-way ticket. It just seemed very unusual."
It seemed Blair had no intention of going back the way he came, at least not anytime soon.
Wednesday, July 10th. After landing in America's capital city around 6:30 a.m., he rented a 1996 white Toyota Camry at the airport and began driving. Around 5 p.m. that afternoon, he stopped in Knoxville, Tennessee, over 500 miles southwest of D.C., to gas up his car. While at the BP station, however, Blair realized he'd locked himself out of the car, and his key wouldn't unlock it. A gas station employee who stopped to help quickly realized the problem. Blair was trying to open the car with a Nissan key. The rental car was a Toyota. Blair claimed he had no other keys on him. After searching around the car and emptying his pockets and finding no other keys, Blair called a towing company.
The rental company was already closed, and he had to wait until the morning to contact them and have a new car key made. The towing company took the Toyota to a repair shop and dropped Blair off at a local Fairfield Inn to book a room for the night.
Surveillance footage at the hotel showed Blair entering and exiting the front lobby 5 times in the span of an hour, behaving strangely. According to an employee, he acted, quote, paranoid, nervous, and agitated, as if he was, quote, expecting someone to come in on him even though there wasn't anybody there. I don't know who he was looking for, but he was waiting for somebody to walk in for him. Finally, he rented a room, paying $100 to the desk clerk. He didn't bother to wait for his $50 in change and walked out of the lobby at 7:37 p.m. It is presumed he never entered his room, never returned to the hotel. This was the last known time Blair Adams was seen alive. Thursday, July 11th, 1996. Construction workers arrived at an unfinished motel to begin their workday and stumbled across a body in the parking lot.
Authorities used the deceased's wallet to positively identify the body as Blair Adams, a half-mile from where he was last seen at the Fairfield Inn.
Lieutenant Jones described the body as follows. His pants were removed in a way not like someone would take their own pants off, but in a way someone else would remove your pants from you. His socks were turned inside out, his shoes were off, and his shirt was ripped open. According to the Tennessean, Blair was found only wearing his shirt, but there was no sign of sexual assault or activity. He appeared to have suffered a beating. He had numerous scratches all over his body, a defensive wound on one of his hands, and took a fatal blow to his abdomen, which ruptured his stomach. At the time of his death, Blair had no alcohol or drugs in his system.
Scattered around the body was $4,000 in American, Canadian, and German money, and a nearby search turned up the fanny pack with $2,000 worth of gold and jewelry still inside. Another bag was found containing Blair's receipts from 2 car rentals and one of his plane tickets. No murder weapon was ever located or identified, and a search of the hotel room he'd booked the night before turned up nothing. But the most chilling piece of evidence was lying just 10 feet away from Blair's body.
The key to the Toyota, the one he couldn't find the day before, which prevented him from leaving Knoxville.
There were conflicting reports on whether Blair was seen alone in Knoxville the day he arrived. One report claimed he was always seen alone, while the Tennessean claimed Blair was seen with a man at local restaurants Wednesday night. It is unclear which is true or if there was any follow-through. The only possible lead was a security guard at a nearby business who claimed to have heard a short, possibly female scream around 3:30 a.m. Beyond that, detectives couldn't decipher the reasoning or logic behind Blair's chaotic path from Surrey, British Columbia, to Seattle, to Washington, D.C., to Knoxville, Tennessee. Those who follow the case have their own theories about Adams' fate.
When it comes to theories, we have 2 major questions to answer.
First, what happened to Blair Adams? How did he turn up dead?
Theory number 1. Some believe Blair struggled with depression and committed suicide.
However, much of the evidence contradicts this, including the defensive wound, the profile of his injuries, and those closest to Blair claiming even if he was struggling, he wouldn't have resorted to killing himself.
Then we have theory number 2. Blair's death was an accidental hit and run.
Nowhere in my research did any official sources mention that his injuries were consistent with being hit by a car. Everything pointed to him being beaten, and this theory is only mentioned on speculation forums.
So, we have theory number 3. Blair Adams was murdered. The possibilities of how his murder took place are nearly endless.
Police tried different angles: a sexually motivated murder, a drug-related murder, and even a robbery. But minus the fact that Blair was found stripped of his pants, there was no sexual assault or activity present. Robbery seemed highly unlikely considering the amount of cash and valuables left behind.
The most likely possibility out of the 3 was a drug deal turned bad, but 2 people who claimed to know Blair said he'd left that life behind him. No alcohol or drugs in his system when he died either.
What exactly fueled the fire for someone to kill Blair? It's difficult to say. Was it a random attack, or was Blair hunted down by the very people he claimed were trying to kill him? And was it personal? In order to find out who, we'll likely have to answer the second big question. Why was Blair running in the first place?
Theory number 1. Blair's only pursuer was his paranoid and delusional thoughts. His family did have a history of mental illness, and because of this, some sleuthers and authorities have suggested that Blair's mental health was deteriorating.
While that's entirely possible, Blair thought he was being pursued by someone who wanted to kill him, and in the end, he was murdered. Coincidences absolutely do happen, but it's strange that if it was truly all in his head, if it was all a delusion, how it became his reality. It's possible his delusions and his death weren't related, and he ran into some random foul play.
So then we have theory number 2. Blair was actually on the run from someone out to kill him.
A user who posted to an online discussion concerning Blair's case claims to have been friends with him in real life. Their identity and offered information hasn't been validated by law enforcement, but I thought I would include it simply as a theory.
This alleged friend said Blair sent her postcards while abroad in Germany working on a construction job 6 months before his death. While there, he allegedly got involved with a young girl, around 17 or 18 years old, but returned to Canada alone. She theorizes that someone who didn't like that Blair was involved with this girl followed him home with the intent to do him harm.
Others have suggested that he could have been the victim of an organized crime hit, or that he ran into some sort of trouble in Germany that made ending his life a priority for someone. If it was organized crime, it doesn't seem to be monetarily motivated, as he wasn't robbed. Also, the ability to track someone all over North America in real time back in 1996 seems a little more difficult without the presence of social media.
So this poses the question, was Blair's death a sad coincidence to his failing mental health, or was he deliberately hunted down and eliminated? With so few answers and nearly every theory being a possibility, there are obviously many questions left unanswered.
Like, why Knoxville, Tennessee? Some place a lot of credence in the fact that that was Blair's last stop, but personally, I don't think he planned it to be. He got stranded unexpectedly where he intended on going. I can't say, but it seems to me he didn't have a plan. Police said he didn't know anyone in the area and had no reason to be there. Others believe he had an agenda from the onset. But what about the Toyota key? How did it end up next to Blair's body when he was missing it the day before? It's possible he misplaced it and found it later, but if he truly did lose it, how did it end up next to his body? So far, no one's been able to say. It's part of the reason Blair's death is particularly tragic and frustrating because the possibilities are so vast and varied that answers seem impossible, but that doesn't mean hope has been lost or that people have stopped seeking them.
Regardless of the theories we all speculate upon, at the end of the day, many people lost a great friend to a violent tragedy. Friends and family suffered this loss heavily and only wanted answers as to what happened to Blair and to see justice be served. The case was bizarre enough that Unsolved Mysteries covered it in an episode that aired on April 18, 1997, nearly a year after Blair's death.
As far as my research took me, there have unfortunately been no new developments.
If you have any information on Blair Adams' death, you are encouraged to contact the Knox County Sheriff's Cold Case Investigations Unit at 865-215-2243. Again, that's 865-215-2243. Or you can email them at coldcase@knoxsheriff.org. That's coldcase@knoxsheriff.org.
Thank you all for giving this case a moment of your time. No matter what you believe or what you speculate, I ask you only for respect in the comments, and remember, though these may be dark matters, the darkness always matters.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe so you don't miss any new videos on unsolved cases. If you're looking for other similarly unsolved cases, you can click any of the videos on screen now. Stay safe, friends, and have a good night.